And we're
Okay.
recording.
Who's recapping?
We fought a chimera.
Yeah, so
Was that
after
last
a
session?
hellacious
Chimera.
with a chimera, we traveled onwards to Leary, I believe it was.
Well, hold on.
And we
Leary.
met a
Wait.
bard. Wait, no, not Leary. No.
There was some
We're-
chaos shit.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's.
yeah,
Ariel,
there was
thank
some
you.
chaos in between. Yeah. Yeah.
We got a
I
cool wand.
Yeah.
We got a cool wand. Kane turned blue. We went to Lyrie.
Yep.
We murdered
There
the
was-
Mephits.
We murdered the Mephits. We
Alsana
got.
took the head of the Chimera, dragon head.
Yep.
Dug up the thing, took the wand. It's basically a wild magic sorcerer's wand.
And we met with a young bard who was going to do his first stage performance.
We rolled
As
the
an aside
1d100
to-
of a bard with performance
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yeah. And as it turns out, plot twist, Alsana and Kane are related to the young minstrel.
Whose dad had apparently
Whose
come
dad
and
is-
gone in a flash.
Sorry,
very
Ballad.
Maching around, as it were.
Also, sorry, your name's Ballad. Ballad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His name's Ballad.
Basically, I'm just gonna put what I put in my notes.
We have half brother. Fuck, he also wants to run away. How the fuck does also have that? Fuck, he wants to be a bard. Dropped a letter.
And then we went to bed.
Yep. And then we went to bed.
Because Kane needs a drink, but also he needs a fucking pillow.
He needs a nap.
You know, motherfuckers need father figures.
And that's what you missed.
I mean, we could also use one of those, but you don't just find those lying around, unfortunately. If you do, he's
Yeah.
probably not a very good one.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a. Well, I guess no, we haven't dropped them off yet, have we?
Not yet.
No.
Yeah, we basically ended on taking that rest and the evening.
Mhm.
Was there anything else? Did anyone else get up to anything in town?
No,
We helped
not
out at
really.
the end.
We helped,
We got
We helped
discounts.
at the end, that was about it. Yeah.
Ah, yes. Oh, and Alsana gave him a bit of a pep talk before kind of realizing the potential.
Alsana gave him a sisterly pep talk without being
Without realizing.
Mm-hmm.
whoosh.
It's probably a good thing too, because she's not as good as at those.
Hey, don't worry. This one you can't tell to leave.
Yeah, this one you're just gonna leave yourself.
Ow.
Sorry, it was wide open.
Yeah, just didn't expect. I was waiting for it from Kane, maybe from another or from another player. Didn't expect the GM to get a little cracking.
I'm not gonna lie.
You are lagging.
Yeah, you're not gonna lie.
Not gonna...
Anyhow, I think that pretty much covered last session.
Yep.
As much of a clusterfuck as that
Uh,
recap.
He doesn't know what was said in the past minute.
That
Okay.
makes sense. Well, the recording's there for a reason.
Hey, you get to live the session twice. Only the second
If
time,
I
much
lived through
clearer.
it the first time, I'll be fucking amazed.
All right. So, you, after all of this, after the inn is cleared out and you all go and get some rest for the night, as much as any of you could get rest given certain revelations for certain characters, regardless, you wake up in the morning refreshed enough. Kane probably quite happy to be waking up in a bed in a room constructed without any loose earth for Razorvine to grow up around you, as has happened every time you've camped outside since you've found and tuned to that sword.
Sana has burned it every time.
Good to know. Good to know. I'm willing to bet that Elaris is just as happy because usually he's the one sharing a tent with Kane, I believe.
Yeah.
It's not a great thing to wake up and realize that your hand is inches from a vine covered in very sharp thorns.
Yeah.
Anyhow, you
I feel
will.
like I should be concerned more about these thorns than Kane is.
You all get up. Alsana, you do your daily weather report check. Looks like sunshine today. There might be some
Oh,
gathering clouds laid on, but sunshine. However, when you get up and out from under the blankets, there is a noticeable chill in the air. It hasn't been warm per se recently, but temperatures have been kind of doing the rise and fall that comes with early to mid spring. Today seems to be the start of another falling temperature, as it is very chilly, and anybody who braves cracking a window open gets a full blast in the face of, nope, that's cold.
Also, I'll just crack the window a bit and just like hold the face there for like a few seconds longer.
Coda wakes up and goes, "Oh nope, that's cold."
Kane wakes up fucking miserable.
Wait, are Asana and Calda in the same room?
We got 2 rooms.
You got 2 rooms, so
So Alsana has the window open for probably longer than Calda would like.
Yeah.
All right, I'll get my other sweater on. Also, Alsana, I'm gonna ask. I don't really mind if it's intrusive or not. What happened last night? You and Kane seemed to agree on something, and it was panic.
And she kind of like turns around and like, ugh. When phrase like that, it seems worse than it was.
I don't think it was bad, but you two were surely freaking out and acting.
No, I was. He was doing his usual stoic bullshit.
Well, may I ask why you were freaking out?
Are you? She's kind of just like making like smoke circles with the making like frost breath circles in the air. Do you remember a while back I said something to the effect of complimenting Alaris for his being a good father?
Yes.
I say that because it's a luxury I've not known.
Oh,
More specifically, mine and Kane's relation is clearly not of the exact same parents.
I no offense, I assumed so.
And you're aware of how these kinds of races work, yes? The half?
Yeah, there needs to be one to dilute it into.
Well, my mother was an elf, so you can do the math there.
All right, and it's not a good guy. Your dad. I don't want to call him that actually. If he's a good guy, that. Can I say prick?
And Gian like tilts her head to the side. Perhaps. More like a seldom appearing facsimile of family care.
He.
I
Yeah,
was the
he
one who
helped.
kept the household together. He'd drop off some gold now and again. But I did the cleaning, I did the laundry, I did the cooking.
How did you and Kane end up in the house together? Didn't you both have your moms, or?
That's a optimistic guess.
I.
No. My father... It was possible he could have left those days behind him. It's I don't know enough about him, and I don't really care to sometimes. But given brief conversations I had, there was more than just a one-day fling with my mother.
Ah,
And then, well, let's just say mine and Kane's ages are fairly close together.
I'm terribly sorry. Then,
As such, we've both had both sides find themselves scarce.
all right. So your dad's not a good. That prick's not a good person, all right?
Maybe one day he was, but I mean,
Not
there's
when.
something that women he leaves in his wake, seeing him.
Hmm. But that doesn't explain why you two were in sort of freaking out last night. Well, you were getting a little anxious last night.
Did you see the... You saw the boy performing last night?
Yeah, ballad, right? And call to make an insight check at this point just to see if it gets over her head or not.
Go ahead. This is a good point to make an insight check.
I
Pieces are there,
did.
but not quite together, maybe.
It's not fitting. The puzzle pieces are almost there, but they're not exact.
Yeah, there's an inkling of a suspicion, but that's a conclusion to jump to, and you're not quite sure. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you don't know.
I don't want to assume, but there's a lot of different options, is it? Just tell me, I don't want to keep guessing.
Well, it seems he was lucky in that his mother stuck around.
Oh, oh. Oh no, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
He would leave often. Out of the house, gone for months at a time.
It's
I
not
mean, it only makes sense given his track record.
Well, I assume you already said so, but that is not a father.
Not anymore.
At that point, he wasn't. Alright. Can I ask you a favor?
She kind of like turns.
Can I help you beat the shit out of him?
That's oddly direct.
I'm a mother of three, Asana. If my husband did any of that, he'd be dead.
Well, luckily, the closest he got to tying the knot was with mine. So, matrimonial vows are, unless you count engagement, not
Uh,
directly broken.
to a sense, I do, but it's still a terrible thing to do.
I have some choice words and some choice magic for him should we cross paths.
Well, I'll let you do that, and... Oh, my, I've been hiding this. Can I give you a hug? Oh,
She kind of like tilts her head. Oh, what now?
a hug. I want you to know that, like, a lot of parents, like, you saw Alaris, and I want to reassure you that, like, a lot of parents aren't like that, and I really hope you just are okay.
Well, I guess I'm learning that fact slowly.
Does that answer the question of do you want a hug?
If you're requesting,
Well, you need to be accepting, or it won't be a true hug.
She gets up.
Gonza's gonna go her stubby little 229, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and just wrap her arms around Alsana's legs and just pat like the kneecap area.
Hug check.
Halfling hug checks.
Strength check.
Strength check plus proficiency.
25.
Alsana, it is a firm hug. It's so firm that you feel like you're not. You feel like you've got stone wrapped around you. You're not going anywhere. But it's soft stone and warm.
Yeah.
So, not so bad, maybe.
Call the picture up a little bit.
Oh, thank you.
It's okay. And thank you for telling me. And in return, Corin.
Gives a look.
My husband's name is Corin.
And you don't have any streaks against him?
No,
Alright.
I hope one day you can meet him. And the kids.
Oh, I guess as well now you have your reason why I was, curious when we first met.
I do now, yeah. And that's perfectly acceptable, and I apologize for being rude at that point.
She gives it to her and it's like, I haven't apologized for being rude, you shouldn't have to either.
Alright,
Just
but
kinda-
I'm not gonna be rude to you anymore. Now I feel like the men are fighting.
And she kind of gives a look. It's like, don't promise that to me. It's no fun.
Okay, I'll only be rude if absolutely necessary. But if we run across your father, I'll only be what's his prick face? I'll only be rude to him.
Roy Kirkland is the name.
If I run into Kirkland, I'll
Somewhat.
let you do what you need.
He's apparently a notable bard.
Ugh. I'll let you do what you need, then I'll spit at his feet.
Also, yeah, just maybe, make a quick and direct conversation.
Pardon? I honestly didn't hear that.
Make quick and direct conversation with him should that happen. He has a
Oh,
friend.
yeah.
He has a preference, and it's not human.
Calder makes a very clear gagging sound. I'm a married woman!
She gives a look. She doesn't say anything, but she gives a look and that gets across. Yes, and.
I know he doesn't care, but I do.
What is? And she kind of like looks over to the wall, like somewhat reverberating. It's like, hold on, just like finishes up her beads in her hair. It's like, go make sure they're not breaking something too much.
Yeah, I'm gonna go be a mother to 2 other kids.
The whole time you were having that conversation, apparently there was a little bit of a pun-off in the other room. But it has settled by this point, and now they're talking about food, it seems, as you go over and knock on the door.
And helped make breakfast.
Yep, Calder was putting her arm around while talking to Alsana, and just walking down, just go, what are you 2 up to?
He's offering me
Oh,
the most amazing sandwich.
Yeah,
I am not going to argue.
we
can I have
are
one?
about to go get breakfast.
Can I have one?
Yeah, sure. Big for Gage all the time.
You're a blessing of whatever gods are looking down, or the you're not a gods person.
I still
his-
say I can grow better than you, though.
Mm.
Next time we get a fish, trust me. We'll see who's a better cook.
Call the cold motherfucker.
I was very proud of that one, as terrible as it was.
Alsana eventually floats down the stairs.
All right. You head down, and Jeffrey is up bright and early. Let's see. He's probably making a bit of a breakfast for. You are his only overnight guests, really.
Yeah.
So as you come down, he pokes his head out of the back room, the kitchen area. Says, "Morning."
Hello, Sparks.
Morning.
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 Well, someone's chipper.
Hey,
Ah,
hey.
well, had a good
Good.
night's sleep.
I have good reason for it. Would you allow Mr. Alaris over here for us? Would that be?
Oh, you're lagging.
You did lag a little. Allow Mr. Alaris something the four of us. I'm guessing you were asking if he will let him cook.
Yes.
I can't quite hear what Kane's saying, but I'm auto-completing to, can you please allow Alaris to grill us a cheese?
Yep.
Oh god.
Don't think that works,
Jeffrey,
but
Jeffrey looks over at you. Jeffrey looks down at the pot of porridge, and actually, it's not plain porridge. You can smell various like sweet spices from the pot. Well,
Alsana goes down and grabs a thing of porridge.
suppose it could.
Oh, that's good.
If you'd like a little.
Oh, well, I'm hungry for both.
Hearty appetites. All right then.
yes.
Mr. Alaris, let me
Yes.
show you where the pans are.
I'll be fine with just the
Perfect.
porridge. You don't need anything else from me.
Phil's gonna dance where she's on. Are you vegetarian?
She kind of like gives a glance, like not particularly.
Alrighty, good to know.
Alaris, you are shown through the kitchen area, and you are able to grill up some cheeses.
Yep.
All things are right in the world.
Yeah.
Actually, real quick, can I request that Calda rolled an insight when she asked Alsana if she was vegetarian?
Yeah, Cod
is
would
your-
want to find it. Sure.
What's your passive insight if you didn't want to roll?
It's 10, but I feel like rolling it would be fun.
Go for it then. 20.
Oh!
So she's not a vegetarian, but she's certainly avoiding it for some reason. The grilled cheese, that is.
Oh. Not a fan of grilled cheese?
She's fucking lactose intolerant.
Yeah, she's
I,
celiac?
not particularly. Why?
Well, you just really don't want that grilled cheese, so.
Hold on, would Kane have any information for this question?
Possibly. It depends on what the answer is. So, Devin, would it be something Kane would potentially know from childhood? Or was it something that it's more a late developed thing? I don't quite know what it is, so. One sec,
said-
sorry, he says. Yep.
Yeah, while that's happening, I put a grilled cheese in front of Kane.
There is no longer grilled cheese in front of Kane.
Fair enough.
He vacuums the grilled cheese up.
Pretty
Sure
much.
scarf that down.
He just looks up like mouthful of cheese and just like, fucking good.
Called as dipping grilled cheese in porridge.
What the fuck? Why?
Of note, this is a savory grilled cheese, and it is a sweet
Yes.
porridge.
Yes!
Alright, you do what you...
I'm... Called us hungry.
Alright.
Called us
Called us
halfling.
hungry.
I
It also
assume
just-
that
It's
Yeah.
like, careful, it's okay.
It's called it doesn't care.
Is Kane aware of how hot
He is aware.
cheese can
He is
physically
in
get?
bliss right now.
And
Breakfast.
also mild pain.
Breakfast, real good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kane may or may not have little tears gathering at the corners of his eyes, but whether it's from bliss or the heat in his mouth burning his tongue, anybody's guess.
Alrighty.
I do not know that we have a Devon yet.
Yep.
As
Click
we're
in a
waiting,
second.
Yeah, one
As
sec,
we're-
sorry, is a little big. Sorry.
yeah, as we're waiting for Devin, I have a question. Would Calda have proficiency or expertise in hugs?
You know what? Make it expertise. She's a
It's just-
halfling mom.
Okay.
It's just a thing.
Is that just a homebrew halfling trait now?
Apparently,
Apparently.
Nessa has expertise in hugs. I'm giving Calda expertise in hugs.
Fair enough.
Do you now have an official hug check?
Yeah, 1 second.
Check.
Hi, sorry about that.
Fuck.
Okay.
What did I miss?
You missed this.
She's got an official hug check now. Anyhow, for the reason you're avoiding the grilled cheese,
Yep.
if it's something Kane might know from childhood, then I might ask him to roll basically an intelligence check for memory and recall.
Sure.
If it's not something that he would know, could know potentially from childhood, then say so, and there's going to be no check.
Yeah, I'd say he could have inklings.
Okay, go ahead and do that intelligence check. Let's see how high of a number you get.
I've just got to reopen my sheet when I refresh. Sorry.
Oh, well, I used my lucky for the day.
You'll get more than one.
Yeah, it just didn't tell me because that athletics check was a 1.
Well, wait, hold on. The halfling lucky?
Yeah.
Halfling luck is all
That's
the
passive.
time.
Yeah, it's every single one.
What?
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
It's all of them.
You just-
It is
you just-
very hard for a halfling to crit fail anything.
Yeah, you just
They're
can't.
great.
You just can't roll a 1 the first time.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It'll even do that when you're rolling at advantage. If one of your numbers is a 1, it'll re-roll that 1 automatically.
How insightful do you think Kane would be? Or I guess.
Kane, you don't really have much memory. If you're even taking note of this conversation, given the fact that a grilled cheese was just put in front of you and you scarfed it down and are in heaven, yeah, you can't remember anything specific from all those years ago. Anything to do with Alsana or cheese or grilled cheese.
I'm just trying to think, like, what does Alsana not like to eat? Hold on. I've never
Yeah,
seen
like-
Alsana eat anything but breakfast.
Yeah, you might not have been, you shared meals, of course, but maybe you didn't pay as much attention to what Alsana did and didn't eat as much as what was in front of you. You were young.
So to be fair, she
That's
was
not-
also making the meals most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sona, why don't you just dip the grilled cheese in the porridge? It's so much better.
Hold on, I'm gonna request you don't.
I'm perfectly fine with just the porridge.
All right, you enjoy your breakfast. We'll enjoy ours.
She just kind of like slowly nods. Oh, that fucking insight, just a light little bead of sweat going down the side of her forehead.
I see the sweat. Don't worry, but you don't have
What?
to say it if you don't want. I see the sweat. You don't have to say it if you don't want to, though. So,
She like taps her forehead and like realizes, like wipes it away real quick. It's fine, it's nothing.
all right, you don't have to say it if you don't want to.
Goodness.
Like glances over, sees Kane isn't paying attention. Oh, by the way, Kane. Calder knows about Dad and about yesterday.
Alright. Hey, Laris.
Yeah?
The bard is my half-brother.
Oh!
And our father's a man whore.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Have another grilled cheese?
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks.
He's like on the ground. He's like making one as you speak. He makes 2 for Kane. It's just like
Okay,
there
you
we
get
go.
2 more grilled.
No, hold on. Did Lars make like a double? Like bread, cheese, bread.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kane suddenly learns the ability
Grilled
to
cheese, quadruple patty, quadruple cheese.
Cheese mac.
Yeah.
Different than Mac
Kane?
cheese.
Kane has gained the ability to unhinge his jaw.
And you were all treated
Whoa!
to lovely vision at breakfast.
Like,
I believe
He
that's
looks
a
at-
wisdom save for everybody, just to retain sanity.
hold on. So, he sees the
Okay.
grilled cheese, gets put in front of him, and everyone just hears. As his jaw clicks open.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Alsana's been a snake before. She's fine.
Yeah. Oh god. I
What
was
the fuck?
saying that apparently Calda is blithe.
Kane is having a fantastic day. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Fucking, Carl does.
What the fuck's going on?
Calda is just
I'm
impressed and
fine.
in awe at his abilities.
Fantastic day, and it's only well, probably not even 8 in the morning. Assuming you guys are early rising.
Chew your food, don't jump choke, please.
Yeah, they do. Oh.
As there's
Ooh.
as there's an entire sandwich-shaped like bulge in his throat that goes down,
Alright.
and a bowl of porridge like shape in his neck.
Oh no, the porridge is gone.
He eats the bowl.
No,
Like,
he eats the bowl.
God damn it.
We're thinking cartoon logic here.
Yes.
yeah.
As Kane extricates himself from the table, he kind of stands up and looks at Jeffrey. I think he said his name.
Mhm.
He goes, "Yeah, give it some too, boss.
Having some too, what?
Boss.
Oh, he's asking if he is having some as well.
Yeah.
He looks over, and I'll admit that looks tasty. Maybe
Polaris.
I'll add it to the menu.
Sure.
One for me and one for the boss."
Sure.
Wait, another?
And
And,
yeah.
Picks up a couple more grilled cheese. Jeffrey is leaning against the counter. So, where are you off to now, if you don't mind me asking? Staying another day in Lyria? Heading elsewhere?
Direction of Windsor, I believe.
I believe so.
When's the Thor indeed?
Alsana, time to
Ah, yes, you
good day
mentioned.
travel.
Say that again, Carmen.
Is it a good day to travel?
She can-
Otherwise,
outside of the weather that I'm sure you can feel yourself, sun should be normal. She kind of just like flicks it open in her palm.
Well, that's a
Alright.
handy trick. They're one of the naturey ones, huh? I've seen a
Sorry.
few come through.
Quick aside.
Mhm.
There was like the sound of power tools in the background of Conrad. I imagine
Yep.
that's Kane eating the grilled cheese.
that was a motorcycle, good sir.
Okay, even better.
Now I can't unhear it!
It's the motor running in his stomach to get it all
It's like
down.
the sound of like yeah in the background.
Once again, the whole cartoon thing where you get that sound effect is the character does the log chew up
Yes.
the mulcher machine
Hmm.
thing.
He's
Wood chipper.
Yes.
He's jackhammering grilled cheese down his throat.
Oh goodness.
There's like the like single like cat hissing meowing. It's like
So oh, I've lost everything.
That's what we're here for.
All right. Jeffrey
Oh
might
man.
chat with you for a little while about Windsor and things he's heard about it, little things he knows. I believe he has not actually been himself, but you know, most travelers through Lyria have gone to or are coming from Windsor.
Oh, alright, might I
Um,
remind you where you were going before? As it just clicked in my head.
Yes.
He was asking about Alsana doing the little weather magic.
Oh yes. He was just commenting on and asking if she was one of the nature types.
So to say, yes.
I've seen a few come through, not many.
That might
But a
be
few.
a bit more than the standard, but
No, you don't say.
She kind
Well.
of like just looks like I can Well, I mean, if you need someone struck by lightning.
Not in many a year. But it's a kind offer, I assume.
And she kind of like gives like a like a little nod. It's like, well, if I'm ever in town again and the answer changes.
Then I'll know who to ask. So, heading out early, lingering a while. You'll be able to get to Windsor within about a day of travel, but yeah, you've got some time. If you leave now and head there, you'll be there in about 8 to 9 hours. Depends on how the road's going. Given the snow yesterday, could be a bit rougher. I'd estimated about 9, maybe 10.
Sonic kind of nods. Oh, also, I think we will be heading out today, at least. And she kind of like goes into her back pocket and like pulls out a letter, like looks over to Kane. I was told you could get this to what's the mom's name? Damn it, I'm gonna remember. Give me a second. I got this. Brain.
Turn to the innkeep pull. Remember the kid who played here last night?
Aye, Ballad.
Can you get this to his mother real quick?
He gives you a bit of a look. Okay. Is there
A long story.
anything wrong, or? Well, a lot of stories are long.
We find ourselves in. We've noticed we share some relatives.
Ah! Oh, okay. Alright.
And we'd appreciate you not telling Ballad right away.
Gives you another odd look. Well, if you say.
It's an offer for the boy once he's older and more experienced, if he wants to pursue the bardic school, I guess. But
Well-
we don't need him running off right away. Or at least his mother would appreciate it.
Well then, I'll make sure this gets to her.
Elsana passes it to him, but like one side down specifically.
Okay.
And just on the side that is like down and like not immediately visible, it's just on the front and cursive is just open first.
Okay.
Kane's is a single piece of paper folded in half.
Alright. So you have delivered the 2 notes to be delivered to Cerulean in trust
Cerulean,
for
that was it.
Ballad. Yep. I figured it had been a while, so I thought I'd
I'm like, did you not see it's like a color or something?
Aquarius. No.
Yeah, my brain was saying like lapis or something.
Alright.
Thinking like Ruby style names. Ah shit. You're dropped.
Ooh, John.
John.
Ah.
He's back.
There's a crash in the kitchen.
Suddenly
Well-
he has a concussion. Not a gun.
No, Lars is just narcoleptic. Is that the right word?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
You're just like pass out.
Yeah.
This is my crossbow, named after my wife, who tragically doesn't like adventuring.
Oh god. Thank you for that reference.
Until I said narcoleptic, I couldn't not.
Yeah, I just didn't want to say the word I used to say when I thought of narcolepsy.
What
Elaborate.
I didn't want to say it out loud.
What?
I didn't want to say it.
Okay.
You can put it in the
All
text
right.
chat. It's not going to appear on the recording.
Oh,
God.
stand by for probably cackling or giggling. I don't know yet.
Oh no.
3, 2, 1.
One.
Today is just the
Nothing
day
yet.
that we break Ariel.
Oh,
Oh, that is
That's
the
the
wrong
Monday.
word.
That is a very wrong word.
that's the wrong word. That's the
Devin, you've heard me
wrong-
say it before.
So have I. I just forgot.
Anyways,
Anyways, Jeffrey mentions that since you're going to be on the way to Windsor, and since it'll be probably evening, not yet night when you arrive there, assuming a normal travel pace and assuming that the fresh snowfall is going to slow you down a little bit, he recommends to you a small inn that he knows of. Kind of an old friend runs it, and it is called the Torn Tome.
I'll sign his ear perk up. Oh, what's the nature of the name, might I ask?
He gives you a little crooked grin. Well, I didn't go adventuring alone.
Nah, knew it. Is there a spell book up on the mantle somewhere?
Oh no, Dexora was more the hardy fighting type, but she loved her books and carried a favorite around with her, and unfortunately, that took a basilisk claw right to the right through the half of it. Potentially saved her life, but sadly, it was no more. And when we all hung up our staves and wands and swords and shields and what have you, she decided to go the route of me as well.
I'll suddenly puts up a finger. Might I ask what profession the other members of your group have gone to pursue?
Oh, I don't really know. I think one of them, last I heard, was up in Killidan and took up, well, not really adventuring, just general defense of the town. He wasn't so bad off, really. And another, I think, joined up some merchants going up and down the Drake Run. I see him occasionally in the seasons.
None of them played music much, right?
Well, not really. I mean, Dexora was a fair turn on the pipes, but not really professional.
Okay, good.
Is there a little problem you got with music?
I really hate sitars.
Let's go with that one.
Well, they're not common by any stretch, but basically, if it can be played, you'll probably find it in Windsor somewhere, so you'll hear it before you see it in all likelihood.
Oh, lovely.
Take a detour.
I apologize, GM. Do you have any names for those friends? Just, we might say hello if we ever cross paths.
Yes, you apologize.
He's not sorry, but he does apologize.
Yeah.
For the
Alsana would
recording.
ask. Alsana would ask.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. Well,
So it was the
let's
Torn
see.
Tome, you said? The inn?
The Torn Tome, yes. Let's see. I am very, very quickly finding random names. As fast as possible.
Trust me, we know the struggle.
Yep. I do not have an entire compendium of them inside my head.
You don't. Okay, basically, can we ask what they are so we know them? Should we come across them?
Pretty much. Let me go ahead and
not to not to have you say out the names, but such that if we were to walk by and go, oh, it's yeah, go talk to this person, you can go, oh, you remember this name from.
Well, if you ever come across them, there's Dexora Feldek, who runs the Torn Tome. There's Mend, no last name, just Mend, who's the one in Killidan. And the one who kind of took on that merchant, he's not a merchant directly, but he assists them up and down the Drake one, is Grommet Whitmaker.
Are those all spelled as you would think they are?
Mend is pretty straightforward. I'll go ahead and type the others. They're not complex, but just in case you're getting vowels mixed up.
Oh, yeah, I had Dex.
Yes.
Yeah, Dex. One less L in Feldic.
All right.
Grommet Whitmaker. All right. Once again, sorry, GM. Alsana kind of nods and goes, and she kind of like turns her head. Out of curiosity, ever thought of getting your little band back together for a little expedition one day? One last time?
No, I think most of us aren't fighting fit anymore, to say the least, and he clacks his prosthetic hand on the table. There's me, Mend was pretty much fine. Dexora is never going to walk without a limp again. Grommet's alright, but he, to be honest, wasn't much for the adventure in to begin with. He was mostly in it for the chance of finding something new, riches, the treasure, you know. I think he's happier now, what he's doing.
Just curious. Although she will take note of that, walking with a limp.
Alright. Any more questions?
I believe that's it for me. Actually, you know what, are there any, is there any sort of a textile shop in the area?
In Lyria, well, I suppose you can find some that might be selling their knitwear or homespun for a little extra.
She just like,
Not really a dedicated shop.
know anywhere I could get some more of these? And she kind of like jangles her hair.
Peers at it. Oh, there's some fine work there. Trinkets like that. Again, not really in Lyria. Generally, we wait until the traveling merchants and tinkers come through town and they have those kinds of bits and bobs with them. Otherwise, people might make their own little buttons and beads, carve them out of whatever they have handy. More a personal craft.
Yes.
Windsor, though, you're gonna have a better bet there.
She kind of like runs her tongue over her teeth and like, okay.
It's not just a city of bards, you know. They're real big on all the arts up there. You want
Just a
something fancy to put in your hair? That's the place.
Just the city of bards sounds like my worst nightmare.
Also, it's like, normally I'd agree, but... And she, like, her fingers, like, tapping on the table excitedly. We should be going then, shouldn't we? No time to waste.
Oh,
She's
well.
excited.
Right.
Afraid you've done the worst thing you could have. You gave her ideas. Well done.
Well, it seems a harmless idea to me.
See, that's how she gets you.
Well, I wish you luck then. All of you?
Thank you.
Good travels. Stay safe out there.
No promises.
And do your best.
There we
Cheers,
go.
appreciated.
And as they're walking in, it's like, also, if you should find yourself, perhaps having a kid with untapped magical potential who could use a bit of help getting a handle on it, just send letter threshold and you'll get a hold of me. Bye-bye.
Does he know your name, Asana?
And she looks over. Well, he does now.
Well, I'll keep that in mind.
And she also like thinks over to Calden. It's like, I'm sure on description alone, I'm the only one who in threshold who could be described as such.
Yes, the continent's witch. Got it.
Let's just say if there's another one, well, then we're gonna have trial by combat.
I think you'd win.
Oh.
You're doing pretty well.
I would love to see that fight.
All right. So, you head through town. It's a quiet, sleepy place. This time of year, this time of morning. See a few people poking their head out windows. Mostly, though, it's the most giant signs of life are just smoke rising from chimneys as people stoke up the fires.
Asana
Get a
will
little
float
warmth
by a
in their
few
homes.
windows, like hanging upside down, just to make some people jump.
More than likely, you see at least a couple startled faces in a few windows.
Come on, Osana, you're startling the children.
You head out to the east side of town,
So, like, it
Get
wasn't
back.
my intention.
on the road.
Fair.
Again, there was a heavy blanket of snow the previous day. So the road is, once again, though somewhat depressed by just years and years of traffic compared to the surrounding hills, it's still made a little bit more uniform with the rest. And those who were walking, your feet and legs sink into it. Calda, it's at least up to your knees, if not just a little bit above by now. Just the pure accumulation of the entire winter and then the fresh snow, at least in the deeper drifts.
She's trudging.
Yep, it is slow going because of it. A little bit miserable at times. The bitter cold in the air combined with the freezing snow seeping into boots.
Question.
Mhm.
I know this is a strange one. Would Kane have ever seen or heard of a snowboard?
Interesting question. I will say that you grew up in Tanagar, and Tanagar is not exactly tropical per se. I realize that you've got north and you've got south, but Moormarsh did get cold and could even have ice. Tanagar, yeah, there were some snowy winters. As for snowboard, as opposed to the ubiquitous sled or just any flat object you could slide down a hill on,
Well, that's
Go
the backup.
go ahead and roll a d20.
Also, summer in the swamp, mudsledding.
Yeah, the swamp didn't have so many hills. 11. You know that people would find various boards, so whether deliberately shaped for it or just scrounged somewhere, and mostly children would sit down on them or lay down and slide down inclines. A few of the daring ones might have tried standing, but there wasn't an actual, dedicated thing to that.
He's gonna attempt to pull a Calda-sized sled out of his bag.
Okay, that's another d20. How
As in sized for
successful are you?
Calder or the exact same
Sized
size
for
as-
Calda.
Okay.
Let's see. What is that?
D20.
6.
A 6? Well, it'll probably work. You know?
Looks it up and down.
Is it
A little
Calder?
rough.
Is it like actually shaped in Calder's silhouette?
No, it's It would probably work for Calda. It's sized to like a human child, basically. There's not any runners or anything on it. It is basically just a piece of wood sanded smooth.
Looks at Calda, trudging ahead, and says, do you wanna use me as a cart puller?
Yes, please. I'll use my glaive to sort of drift through more.
Ah, punting, an honorable lifestyle.
It's not great going. It's
Nope.
sanded, but it's not polished. It's not the smoothest ride. Sometimes the edge will dig into a bit of snow if there's a lump, and you just it to a halt, and you have to in order to scoot it along over it.
Sana will slowly float down to beside Alaris and offer a ride. Watching the whole time.
Elaris, you're being offered a ride on the broom.
Sure.
All right. Elaris is now getting to float. Calda is kind of scooching along the surface of the snow on the little sled, with liberal quotes around the word sled. Kane still trudging along. And hours pass in various configurations of travel, as I imagine that the arrangements might shift again.
Also, I might occasionally take like either like very quick stops or very sharp turns just to like keep Alaris on his toes.
Elaris, go
Yeah.
ahead and give me a dexterity saving throw.
Okay, give me a sec.
Mhm.
10.
On a couple of those quick stops and turns, actually, should we make this contested in some way?
This
What's a
be-
broom steering?
I was gonna
check?
say, like, if it's kind of like mind controlled, like it could be spell casting. If it's like,
Yikes.
if you want to keep it like balance based, it could be wisdom or dexterity.
Let's go ahead and have you do a dexterity check.
Alright, just raw check.
Yep,
Would
just
she
a check.
be proficient in this at all?
Uh,
She has had her broom for a while.
I suppose. So if that's a saving throw numerically, then go ahead.
It is not.
Okay.
Just
Something
a-
dexterity with your proficiency.
Do I have that at all, actually? I do not.
Roll for breath.
Yeah,
Type the numbers then.
actually, do I just have a +3 on anything? Yeah, I'll just... Investigation functionally the same.
Yeah, okay. You think that you're doing pretty well, but perhaps your movements are a little bit telegraphed, just enough that Alaris tightens his grip,
There's
even
the
with
first
the
time
cold
he
and
almost
numb
goes,
fingers.
but then she keeps giggling before she does it.
All right. And as the hours pass and the day draws to a close, you wind through the hills, named the Golden Hills, but right now they're far more silver. And eventually you cross the Green River, still frozen over.
Is it frozen
Not look-
green?
No, doesn't look green, it looks white,
Damn it.
much like the rest of the landscape.
Is there like a proper bridge or like we're going?
There is a proper bridge. You are going along what is essentially a well-traversed trade route at this point. The actual markers of the road are fairly wide. It's only difficult because of the snow.
And is the river fully frozen over?
It currently is.
Alright.
It's possible that some of the ice might be starting to get a little thin, given the warmer days that you know have passed by, but you don't actually see any spots where it's broken open yet. But you cross over the bridge and you see before you, sprawling up against the mountain through the foothills, the city of Windsor.
Seems we've made it.
And even at
Fantastic.
this distance, it is brightly colored. You can see in between the bits of snow and ice still covering things, little peeps and flashes of brilliant red and blue and green, yellow and purple. And as you come closer and closer, you find that though there is a wall and a series of gates, they are kept open. It doesn't seem fortified per se in the sense of a place constantly expecting attack. It's fortified in the sense of a place that if it actually became necessary, there might be a defense mounted, but for the most part, it simply is part of the architecture. And as you pass through the gates and go inside, oh, the architecture. It's almost chaotic at first glance. You look around and you are seeing various archways, buttresses. You see peaked roofs. You see domes. You see bits that almost flow, bits that are sharp and geometric. It's as if you took a dozen different architects of a dozen different styles and just turned them loose and had them work between and beside and around each other. And yet, the more you look at it, the more it somehow seems more cohesive than first impression might have given you. So that various swooping arches seem almost to flow into the domed structures, which contrast very nicely against the more geometric shapes nearby. And not only are the shapes a riot of everything basically interesting to the eye, there are also, again, the colors, more apparent now you're up close, so that every house, every building you are seeing, every structure, isn't purely and plainly the natural color of the stone and sometimes wood that it was built from. And every location you see at least some painted element or engraved or frescoed. You see flat washes of color across some walls. You see others where it's concentrated into a design, whether geometric or free-flowing, around doorways and windows or halfway up walls. There are one or two places where outright somebody just painted a mural across whatever flat surface there was. You see banners and pennants hanging from buildings and strung between them, though it doesn't seem to be any particular celebration going on. They're just there, flapping softly in the wind, looking bright and cheerful against the sparkling snow and in the bright winter going on spring sunlight. And everywhere, just crowds and crowds of people. Majority, interestingly enough, Dragonborn. You are saying something, Conrad. What is it?
I'm gonna be honest, I thought I was muted.
But as you... yeah, exactly. As you go in...
Do you want the actual answer, what I was doing?
Okay.
I was trying to make an S sound by putting my tongue on my top teeth and my bottom teeth.
And there goes a siren.
And that's illegal.
Apparently. I couldn't figure it out, so... I'm sorry, I thought I was muted there.
No, there was interesting stuff going on there. Majority of the people that you are seeing in the city seem to be Dragonborn, walking through the streets, going about their business. There is conversation, there is sound all around you. You see individuals, couples, families, groups, whether friends or business or otherwise. Scattered among the Dragonborn are, of course, a number of humans, which tend to be just about everywhere. Quite a few dwarves, some gnomes, You don't see quite as many halflings or elves here, at least not yet, not right now, and not at a simple glance. There are, despite the cold, a few small open air stalls set up with their awnings stretched in almost cheerful defiance of the fact that winter has had its grasp so firmly on the world for this past several months.
Is there any sort of trend or consistency to the Dragonborn's colors?
Well, for the most part, they seem to be the kind of the standard, almost rust brown color that Dragonborn kind of tend towards in general. But occasionally, you still see little pops and flashes of one that has scales tending a little more towards the blue or the green, the red, the copper, other metallic or chromatic sheens or edges. Sometimes, occasionally, you'll see one and think, "Oh, that's got some yellow on it. What's going?" And then you look a little closer and realize that it's actually seems to be little markings across the bridge of the brow and just around the eyes and the cheekbones or equivalent areas. And once you notice the one, you start to pick out quite a few others. Just about everybody seems to have these markings across their face, but the markings are never identical from one individual to another. There might be similarities, but there seems to be stylistic differences of choice. And once you pick it out on the Dragonborn, you start realizing that actually a fair number of the other races you're seeing on the streets going about their business and days also seem to have these markings painted on around forehead and eyes. You see a variety of styles of dress, for the most part, again, fairly colorful, as bright scarves seem to be a common fashion, whether wound around the necks and shoulders or thrown across the top of the head. You see sashes, layers upon layers of tunics and coats and long hanging belts. You hear music on the breeze, you smell food cooking from various directions. You stand at a crossroads looking around. Welcome to Windsor.
Side note, does Alsana blend in, like, somewhat or not at all?
There's not a lot of people wearing pure black. There might be the occasional more plainly dressed one. The beads do help a little bit with the little bit flashes of color in your hair.
Because it's like extravagant design, but like very restrained colors, and that's why I was wondering if that was like a...
Yeah. It might be a bit of a toss-up, honestly. Though you're standing also in contrast of sorts with, I presume Kane tends to dress fairly simply, color-wise, and I believe Calda tends towards the creams and browns as well. Am I wrong?
Some blues in there. She's wearing a blue sweater today.
Okay.
How about Lars?
Elaris, all I have to go on is the character art, which does have a bright red shirt or tunic. So, Elaris, how's your fashion feeling in this bright and colorful and artistic city?
Are you feeling
Decent?
fresh?
A little bit.
Give us an example.
Sorry.
What's Alaris wearing? How's his fashion going? This is important details that are required. You're gonna be thrown in jail for the fashion police.
The actual fashion police.
If there was a town to have it.
Yeah.
God, I found Bellabon's people.
Yeah, he's wearing it's like a finer material, and he's wearing like blue right now, but it's of a finer material, but not like super fancy, but like still overall kind of fashionable.
Is it like a nice dad like collar shirt?
Yeah, like a nice dad collar shirt sort of thing. Yeah.
All right.
Fantasy equivalent, anyway.
Of note, you have arrived, getting on towards evening. The sun is actually approaching the western horizon. I did misspeak earlier when I said bright sunlight. It is fading towards the golden, but there are actually a number of posts on the street with lamps atop them. And again, the chaos of creation in this city seems to have made their mark there, as well as the lampposts are not perfectly identical going down the street. There's the general similarities of function that are required, but you might see a little bit of, artistic flair in one that's different from another, that's similar to the next, but not quite the same.
Alsana, real quick, peruse some of those defiant stalls, open air stalls,
All right.
to see what they're up to.
Yeah, there's probably one or two. They are starting to pack in, given the time of day, but there's still a few wares sitting out. Let's go ahead, and I believe I've got a list for this. Let me just check. I've got...
Am I rolling something?
Potentially. If I have this saved, and I think I do somewhere. Let's see. It's not quite the one I'm after. Sorry, while the DM experiences some technical difficulties in preparation. Because I didn't have anything specific in mind, but I should have, knowing Alsana, rather.
Sorry.
Knowing Alsana. Hey, there's every chance I might have done the same thing with a character,
It's not a chance, it's a fact.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I thought for sure I had something found it. That was in the different location. Go ahead and roll a D100. Let's go ahead and see what you get.
Oh boy.
Tell me the number.
Oh no.
13.
Oh no.
All right. Oh, actually, the first one you come across, interestingly enough, is a stall with a small cloth banner hanging from on the front of the awning overhead, and the banner has an arrow crossed with what looks like a quill. And you look over, and what you see behind the stall is humanoid in shape, but different from any of the Dragonborn and humans and gnomes and dwarves and so on that you have seen in the streets. It's somebody covered in feathers. Kind of a dusky gray, though they seem to have thrown some bright green, a bright green scarf on and a little cloak, some brightly colored, a brightly colored tunic and belt. And they seem to be packing things up. But what you see out is a couple of small cases, one still propped open, the others closed and stacked up, and a small arrangement, not yet put away, of small dark bottles in a variety of colors, or at least colored labels, and a small, a little flat box of quills. Some scroll cases stacked up on the side.
She'll just have like one rep, like, sorry, I see you're packing up, but can I just take a quick look at what you have right now?
Hello. Of course. One moment. He starts laying out.
Is it a shorter
few
bird or a
things.
taller bird?
I would say probably a little bit shorter than you are.
Okay. Does it have wings?
No, it does not.
Alright.
It's got a beak. It's got birdie eyes. It's got feathers, but it has like talon-like hands.
Gotcha. Does she know what this is?
Quite possibly. Go ahead and do a nature check. Alright, 12 plus 1, 13. You've read a little bit about a couple different kinds of bird folk. You've not really studied them in depth, but you know there are some without wings that tend to mimic voices. I am not doing the full soundboard thing because no. So in this world, they can mimic, but they're not limited to that.
Alright.
However, they do tend to be a little bit halting with various languages.
Ready.
Welcome, Scrivener's Arrow.
She looks at this. Huh. So various inks, quills, and writing stuff. Can she just give a glance and peruse over, see if anything catches her eye?
Yeah, sure. What would catch your eye as Alsana?
Probably maybe like a nice writing quill. Be it either like fancy and kind of fitting her aesthetic, or just one that she could potentially tell would just write really well and be good for what's the art with writing?
Calligraphy?
Yeah, not necessarily like full on calligraphy, but like nice for her, kind of nicer handwriting.
All right. Yeah, he's got a small variety of various quills from the fairly common, like goose feather ones, all the way up to some fancy looking, not quite golden, but golden brown feathers that are long and broad. There are some that look almost seem to have like jewel tones to them. You see one though that might catch your eye that is very deep black, but when you move your head and look at it and the light catches it differently, it has a little bit of that iridescent sheen to it as it catches light.
Yes.
He's got the small bottles with varying colored labels are a variety of inks. There is, of course, a large selection of black inks suited for writing and for calligraphy, of course. But there's also like a little variety of, this one's purple, this one is dark red, this one is a deep blue.
Side note, your garage door just open?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
And it's closed again. Can't
How the
help
fuck
that,
do you
sorry.
keep hearing that?
I don't know. I'm just curious if I am still hearing it or not.
You did.
Yeah, no, I don't know how well it comes in the recording even, but
I still have yet to
Regardless.
hear it.
As well as the quills and inks, there's a small stack of parchment in varying grades of how fine and how coarse it might be. A little bit of vellum as well. There's maybe 2 simple leather-bound blank notebooks for people to buy. A little bit more expensive than the rest of the supplies. There's a bit of the sand, the blotting materials. There's a bit of sealing wax, though not necessarily seals themselves. And then there's just small carrying cases for putting away your new calligraphy kit. Nice and neat.
and she knows that. Would she know enough to know like black feather, with some sheen to it? What that could be from?
I mean, there's a variety of things it could be from.
She has a nature.
Yeah, sure, give a nature check. 22? Plus 3, 25. Devin, I have no freaking clue where it's from.
I'm sorry. Can it just be like a fancy kind of raven?
Maybe. Let's go with that. It's a big one.
Alright. I'm sorry.
I just love that at some point Ariel just gave up trying to justify Sir Devon.
You
There's-
asked for something that would fit Elsana's aesthetic, and so I threw something together, and then you started asking for species, and I'm like,
Sorry. Okay, you don't need. I'll say this: you don't need to give me the specific information. I'm content with just knowing my character knows something.
This was so fantastic though. I just love the like, what the fuck, Devon?
Tell you what, it's a bird that's fairly common in the Greenwater Wood.
Okay.
It's not actually magical, but it is nice looking, and it is a fairly big one, and you've seen quite a few of them.
Okay.
Big raven.
Side note, also, just glancing at all the feathers. Do any of them match the vendors?
No,
Alright.
I would say no.
Just want to make sure.
Okay.
Curiosity more than anything. She will ask how much for the fancy one.
Alright. As I try and figure out a good way to price things, because quills, but also fancy quills. So, let's see. What makes sense? Calligrapher's supplies fully is 10 gold pieces, but you're only after a quill.
I'd imagine the inks would be the more pricey part of that too as well, wouldn't it?
Probably.
You ever try to buy a fountain pen? Not true.
Yeah, well, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
Dear God, a 1 ounce bottle of ink in the different chart table is 10 gold pieces all on its own. How does that even work? Anyhow, ignoring that bit of confusion on the book's part, yeah, I'd say that a standard quill, let's say it's a silver piece. The fancier quills, though, tend to range from 2 to 3 silver pieces. The black one, let's say 3.
Alright. She'll go in her pocket, produce 2 silver and 10 copper.
Okay. He scoops them up and very carefully lifts the quill out of its resting place in the box and presents it to you as if it's a fine piece of fine art.
She takes it with the same
Your
reverence.
quill. Thank you for business.
Thank you very
Do you
much.
need ink, parchment, a nice book?
I've got my own for now, but if I ever find the need while we're still in town, I'd be happy to return. Are you here usually every day?
Most days. Take off Marin days. Good for rest.
I'd agree. Well, I wish you all the best. Have a nice night.
Thank you. You as well. The rest of you? Inks, quills, parchment, books? For clever men and ladies?
Carla's gonna look at her parchment levels.
Hmm.
Maybe a little bit more parchment, I think.
Alright. Let's say that the parchment is... He's selling it for 2 sheets for a silver piece, let's say. I'm
She'll
cutting
get-
on the cost of the official book, so...
4 more sheets is good.
Alright, go ahead and mark off your silver. He'll package up the sheets of parchment for you.
Carla will put it in the bag. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Last call for night.
I'll be alright, thank you.
I'll be okay.
Oh, good, good. Remember Scriveners, if you need. He waves you off and goes back to packing up as slowly the people about the street are starting to wane a little bit with the waning light. People are starting to head in towards dinners and rests. You guys are free to explore for a little bit if you'd like, or you can rest and then spend a little time in the city in the morning. It's your choice. If you'd like to just do a little walk around, let me know and we can do a couple of D100 rolls.
I mean, since you offered.
Ooh,
Yeah.
sorry,
Let me know how the mechanics are going to work.
sorry,
Yes?
real quick, I forgot something. Could Alsana have asked Bird Person, just as she was leaving, about the, do you happen to know where the, Torn Tome would be?
Oh, Torn Tome. Yes. And it gives you basic directions. It's not terribly far, a few blocks over.
She thanks him again. And, relays it to the party.
So you guys know your way towards the Torn Tome right now.
That's good. Maybe we can do a lap before we settle in for the night.
Yeah,
Yes, I
See
believe
what's still
so.
open.
yeah.
Can Alsana, like, just pause and, like, is there much music going on right now?
Oh, there's always music going on.
Okay. Nearby more so, I mean.
You are going for, like, if there's a particular street corner, or?
I mean, just
is-
in that, like, kind of front area they're in when they first entered the town.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you go a block in this city, and chances are you're gonna find someone on a street corner with, say, a fiddle.
Alright.
Or
Throat
God.
singing.
Yep, a little bit of that.
Ooh.
I do not know what happened, but boy,
Uh,
something got caught there.
breathe in at the absolute worst time.
Yeah, probably.
Right. Alsana's, like, kind of, like, happily, twirling the quill in between her fingers.
Alright, if we're doing a walk around, let's go ahead and have one person volunteer to do a D100. Let's say not Devin, since you did
I was
the
gonna say, I
Market
just
Stall one.
did one.
So, who wants to do it?
I guess I'll do one.
Alright, let's have Alaris tempt fate.
As he always does.
Add 100.
46. Alright. Let me just go ahead and pull something open. There we go. Alright, as you kind of are wandering along, you glance down a side street, a little bit tucked away, a little bit darker and dimmer than the rest, as the various lampposts are starting to be lit with what are presumably either magical fires or other magical lights. Again, these vary from one to the next. In one, there might be small little floating globules of light similar to the cantrip dancing lights. In the next one, it seems to be just a flickering flame. And the next one, something that kind of throbs slowly with a golden radiance. But as you glance down this side street, you see a sign for something that says, well, first of all, do you read Draconic?
Let me see here.
Actually, that's a question for everybody.
Pretty fair, yeah.
Does anybody read Draconic?
Not I.
Nope.
Yeah, Alaris does not.
Alright, of note, most of the written signage in the city is primarily in that language.
Oh boy.
However, most of it does also have the a translation in common underneath. It's just in smaller letters, usually. There's a few signs where common is used first, but
I imagine there's a few where, even
Yeah.
if there isn't common, you can kinda get it together.
this one, Alaris, what you see is, well, first of all, you see the the artistic depiction of like the head and very clearly severed neck of a dragon.
Oh,
Underneath a bit of a bit in a language you don't know, and then underneath that in smaller letters, you see Morticia's Morgue.
ah,
Autopsies on demand. Reward for rare monster parts.
oh.
Oh, so
Sure, we
que-
have some of those.
so-
Why not, right?
so question.
Yes.
It wasn't addressed.
Mhm.
What did we do with the dragon head?
That's right, guys. What's the dragon head doing?
Did Kane allow it to be stored?
I know we carried it into Lyrie.
Yep.
Lyrie.
Because I remember also I said Alsana was going to be preparing pieces of it, but it was not got to.
I believe that you did descale a little bit of it in the evening.
But
But-
I don't think any rules were made for it.
Eh,
Yeah.
Is Kane there?
Kane is there. I'm just considering.
Basically, if in the morning he saw Alsana like trying to figure out what the hell to do with it, would he offer?
He'd walk by showing off his bag, but that's it.
Can we do a quick little time rewind then?
we can do a quick little time rewind as we do a flashback to explain where the hell that dragon head is, because I forgot about it too.
You know, as one does with a dragon head.
Yeah, well, it's been a week.
Alsana,
Is it fucked up to pull out a dragon head in the middle of a dragonborn city? Is that messed up?
Interesting question.
I mean,
Let's find out what happened with Ned first.
Okay.
I imagine it's kind of like eating chicken if you're a Aarakocra or something. Just look over and just kind of almost like trying to drag it out the door and just like, are you feeling more reasonable today?
I feel equally as reasonable as I always am.
Are you going to let me put the head in the bag?
Well, I'm not blue anymore.
Sorry, say that again.
I'm not blue anymore. How about this for one condition?
Her head tilts.
I get one of your hair beads.
Oh, good.
I don't care which one.
There's a
Just one.
glass shattering. Why?
I don't have one for this city yet.
Face like convulses. And I don't have some for other things either. Though the place we're going to is bound to have some.
In that case, I want 5 from that city.
From me.
Yes.
Why?
Well, it has to cost something.
No, why are you doing this with beads?
Well, I mean, I imagine I'm not going to have beads for some of the future cities too, so it's kind of like a stockpile.
In general.
I don't know.
Are you spiting me?
Statement.
Is it to spite me?
I'm always spiting you, but not specifically this now.
So you just decided that after who knows how many years of doing whatever you want, I walk in the room, hair clad in a different style, and you think, oh, I want to do that too. Because I have a hard time believing that.
I mean, you have a hard time believing a lot of what I believe.
Would you not say that wanting to be more like me is one that I'm fair in doubting?
Depends on what aspect, but sure. You drive a hard bargain, will make it 4.
She kind of stops for a sec. Into the back of her pocket, flicks him another red bead.
Alright. He will open up the bag.
All right. So the dragon head is stuffed into the bag of holding for the price of 1 bead.
Yes.
Okay. Keep track of the beads as you might wish, however you might want to.
Yep,
So,
I'm fucking marking them off.
and with that, we zip on back to current time in this city. As Alaris has spotted maybe an interesting place. Don't know if it's something you guys need or want, but
Alsana stops on a dime.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's,
that a
what
corpse
was
house?
it? Morgana's morgue or
Morticia's.
Morticia's
Her
morgue?
name's Morticia. Oh my god, Alsana's walking in the door.
Morticia.
To which Kane will repeat the question of, is it fucked up to pull out a dragon head in Dragonborn City?
I'll do it if you won't.
I mean, there's a severed dragon head on the poster. I don't see why it would be a problem.
Make a fair point.
Alright, we're going into a morgue.
All
I mean,
right.
you can
Yeah,
go outside
Alsana like turns around. It's like, you don't have to come in, but I am.
Nah, I'll face the fear.
Kane, are you walking in or am I taking your bag? I'll give it
No,
back.
I've still got 1 corpse to bring in too.
He turns his head.
I-
Sorry, she turns her head.
She turns his head.
All right.
Yeah, Ilaris gives both of them like weird looks, like,
So Kane is just gonna first reach his hand into his bag and think up, Skulker. How gooey is what he grabs?
Did you not get rid of it?
I got rid of the Meatzel. I didn't get rid of the Skulker.
Okay.
She asked. Okay, just to confirm, she asked about the Skulker and he said he got rid of it.
You did.
Oh, I was referring to the Meatzel, sorry.
Okay, that was very different. No, she was specifically asking about the Skulker. You know, the thing that was
okay.
invisible and had magical properties.
I thought you meant the Meatzel. Okay.
Yeah, no. Are you doing this out in the street, or are you getting into the building first?
No,
Well,
Alsana,
he's just sticking his hand in and trying to see how gooey it is.
Alsana like has a finger like under the the strap of the bag and is like pulling him into the shop.
As you are pulled into the shop, you reach in, you think it, and it's been a month.
Yeah, it's gooey.
Pretty gooey.
Alright.
Can he, if he like pulls his hand out, does it look like there's anything on his hand?
You pull your hand out, kind of noise.
Is it?
Here,
Was
let
it?
me-
Did it stop being
let
invisible
me-
when it died? By the way.
You know, I can't remember what I said.
As soon as he pulls the hand, he goes, Alsana, hold this. And he's gonna put his hand on hers.
You know, I really can't remember, but I had some justification for whatever it was.
Alsana like feels the squish. Pauses for a second. Can she just? She's gonna like slowly smell the hand.
It is rank.
Can she guess what it is?
I mean, it's rot. Something rotted.
She frostbites her hand and just like
Oh my
like
goodness.
snaps off the like a layer of ice on her palm and just like flicks off the frozen bits of goo.
Kane just does the thing like when you don't have a towel and trying to get the water off your hand. It's like,
She like points like not a smoking, but you know that kind of like cold like a dry ice smoke.
Mhm.
She points it towards Kane and it's like, "Do you want me to do that for you?"
just rubs it on his pants. No, I'm good.
Right.
All right.
You head in, and it's a little bit down a side street, the front door, but it's not locked. You open it up, The interior is a lot of wood. It seems. Not all of it is stained dark. There's just enough light colors to offset the gloom, but there is a kind of deliberate gloom to it. The lights are numerous, but relatively low. Mostly little guttering candle flames and lamps and lanterns throughout the room. There is a waist-high table that's almost more a slab in the center. Probably better illuminated than most, and a few chairs along a wall, a couple of bookcases, and a small doorway against the back wall with a heavy cloth curtain.
Is there a jingle to the door as it opens at all, or?
Not so much a jingle as a ding, ding. The bell doesn't seem to dance as much.
But basically their presence is known.
Yep, and you hear from the back, "I'm coming, one moment." The moment passes, a little rustle, and then the curtain parts, and out walks a human woman. Not too dissimilar to Alsana in looks, at least on the surface, with the black hair, though hers she wears tied back, very serviceable, sensible style. She's wearing a pair of heavy gloves. There's a basically like a heavy canvas apron over the front of her attire. Not as bright as most of the denizens, though there are some distinct purple shades and a little bit of like a warm, not metallic, but a warm gold color to some of the accessories and borders
Any
of
stains?
the cloth. A number of unidentifiable stains on the front of the apron. The gloves are too dark and seem to be treated with something as they kind of catch the light and reflect just a little bit, enough that you think probably waterproof and probably a lot of things proof. She steps out. "Hello, welcome to Morticia's Morgue. What can I do for you?"
Are you the titular Morticia?
Well, that is what I go by.
Chosen name, I assume?
It seemed appropriate.
Wonderfully so.
Kane is just in the worst kind of shock right now.
Calder's mouth is just hanging down.
What is the like universal
Goodness,
equivalent
there's
of
two.
whiplash?
He looks like you punched him in the face with a goat.
Oddly specific. I fucking love this.
So he just saw a flying goat running through a burning city.
So,
And then
I
directly up
see-
his nose.
I see 4 living persons. I do not see any work for me, unless you have it hidden somewhere.
Indeed, we do. So
Uh,
you chose,
So, autopsy or otherwise.
perhaps otherwise.
I have a
Sherman?
question first.
Yes?
What color is her hair, by the way?
Black.
Is your hair naturally that color?
Yes, it is.
Okay, just curious. Is it?
oh dear.
Also,
Is it
looks over.
Don't worry about it. Is it acceptable to pull, like, to have a dragon head in this city? Is that a thing that's?
Alsana like sighs like, oh, you just completely killed all of the dramatic tension, didn't you?
A dragon.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that's not like actively offensive.
Oh, no.
Kane, I asked you if you were having troubles with that to stay outside.
It's my bag.
It's my head.
It's my bag. Just want to be dragging the head around again. Just deal with it.
If that was intentional, I hate you. So was the front of the sign a request as well, given the imagery?
Oh, not specifically. I mean, we haven't seen dragons in many, many years.
Well, I have a
I
bit of a
certainly haven't come across one.
I have a bit of a technicality, at least, and she kind of like reaches into Kane's bag.
He will pull the bag away and reach in for it himself.
There's a brief little tug of war over the bag, but Kane gets the arm in there because the bag is attached to him. He has a little advantage with there. You scoop out the dragon head of the chimera. And you,
Just on the
Morticia
table.
kind of gestures towards the table, and you place it there. And she kind of goes over to one of the side shelving units, opens a cupboard, pulls out a pair of goggles, a small tool case, goes over to the table, puts on the goggles, which you see, similar to those jeweler's glasses, has a variety of lenses which can be clicked down into place or flicked away. And she sets about adjusting them as she peers at the dragon head without actually touching it just yet. It's fascinating. Alright, not technically a dragon's head, no, I suppose. There's a little bit of a difference to the shape of the nostrils and the teeth.
Right, you are. This is removed off a chimera.
Oh, chimera, that would make sense. That would make sense. What did you do with the rest of it, may I ask?
Unfortunately, we couldn't exactly transport all of it. Found this to be the most, useful one, but it does lay rather undisturbed in, a road a bit before Lyrie.
Assumedly undisturbed.
We left it as such.
We partially decapitated it.
Well, obviously, and she gestures at the head there. Alright, I take it you have either questions or a deal. Are you looking to sell? Are you looking for information?
Well, I suppose we came looking for both, and would like to weigh our options.
Well, let's see. Did Olsana remove any scales that night?
I don't.
Lyrie.
She didn't roll anything for it, so I don't think so.
You did get the knife, and I kind of assumed that you would have spent a little time with it.
All right. Then she might have done a few, but like she was also not feeling up to stuff that evening.
Okay. Fair enough. So you might have a small handful of scales kind of picked from the edges where they were loose from the
like a
job
D6?
of decapitation. Sure. Make it 2d6.
All right. 10.
Alright, total of 10 scales. Intact scales. You might have skipped over some of the chipped and broken and cracked ones.
Red dragon scales or like red chimera dragon scales? Is there a difference?
Specify chimera, just in case. So she's looking it over in surprisingly good condition, all things considered. I don't see any damage in the... Well, I suppose there's a couple of wounds, but for the most part intact. Alright. If you are looking to sell the entire unit... let's see... Not quite. Chimera is not very common, I will admit. However, it is only one head of the 3, albeit a dragon one. I would place the worth of this at whole around 20 gold? 25 for condition, actually. Let's say that.
So I'll nod. Out of more curiosity, if we did have the full set, let's say, would that have gone for more than their individual parts?
Quite possibly. All 3 heads, I would, if they're in as good condition and fairly intact, anywhere from 70 to 100 gold. The entire body? Well, there's perhaps a little bit less of worth, but there's always interesting things that can be done with intestines. Perhaps around 150? 175, again, depends on overall condition.
I'm sorry, what did you just say about intestines?
Fascinating things, really.
How many things can you do with intestines?
Oh, you don't know.
Well, it depends on what it comes from.
I know what you can do with crocodile intestines, but that's about it. What else can you do with them?
You know what to do with crocodile
depending on-
intestine?
What else are you gonna do when you have a whole crocodile?
I'll admit I have never had one of those.
Oh.
Very interesting. I would like to learn. But regardless, it really depends on what it comes from. There are extracts that you can get from them. There's always material of some sort that can be taken from certain kinds of beasts and monsters. Alchemists sometimes will buy bits and pieces, depending.
Alsana nods in agreement.
You should use them as waterproofing.
Well, if you want to be mundane, of course.
Well,
I
you can
am
do
pretty
that with
mundane.
You can do that with most intestines, however. If it's a more extravagant creature, there's always more to be found and more magic to squeeze out of it.
So in that case, what can we do with your intestines, Alsana?
Well, I could become a crocodile if you'd like.
Oh my
I mean, you already got the skin for it.
I don't think we should use intestines
Skin
right now.
My skin is rather smooth, thank you very much.
That's fair, I'm thinking of the breath.
Rude little fellow, isn't he?
Not just quite.
It runs in the family.
You know
Well, I
what?
suppose I pity you for it.
That's fair.
You haven't the faintest idea.
No, perhaps not. So, would we consider this a sale, or is there something more or something else you would have in mind?
I think that's a reasonable price.
Very well. Would this be the only creature you have come across?
There is, from my understanding, we have a one from a while ago. Not good condition, but are you familiar with a skulker at all?
A skulker. Let me think.
Invisible lost soul from the Shadowfell.
It rings a vague bell, but I can't say I really recall. As she's saying this, she draws off one glove and snaps her fingers. You hear this rattling sound from behind the curtain, and out trundles a small flat cart. It stops there next to the table. The Chimera dragon head lifts off the table, settles onto the cart, and as this happens, she is also going over to another little nook in the room, picks up pulls a key from her pocket, unlocks something, draws out a small bag of coins and carries it over to the table and starts counting off in little stacks of 5 gold pieces each.
You are
25
effective at
gold.
what you do.
Well, thank you. And the cart trundles off into the back room with the Chimera dragon head.
Alsana will take the 25 gold. She's down on money.
Now, this skulker, Shadowfell being... Well, let's see the remains. How long has it been?
Mm. In a month, unfortunately.
Might not be much left. However, if it is a being of another plane, there's always potential.
Kane, if you may.
If you want the whole thing, you're gonna need a bucket.
We have plenty of those in the back.
I can supply you a skulker corpse in that case.
And she gestures to the table with both hands.
So, important question: is it still invisible?
Since I cannot recall what I said before, let's say that by now it is translucent, but there is an apparent form.
Okay.
There is something pale. Squishy. Pale. And
Bones
a
are
little
still there,
deceitful.
yeah.
Pretty, yeah, the bones are obviously still there.
All right.
It's just stuff might be kind of starting to drip off the bones.
All
Is
right.
the problem.
Perfect. Alsana will help with
You will slough it into the bucket.
There's not really a bucket out, it's just the flat table, but you can kind of tip it out and just across it.
Yep.
There's more or less a... It's a heap. It's a heap.
Yep.
But Morticia draws the glove back on and flicks some lenses into place. makes a noise.
Take his water skin and wash his hands with it.
And she starts to kind of very carefully, delicately almost, rearrange some of the little bits and pieces until you have a heap that looks a little bit more body-shaped now.
Could Alsana just make any sort of check to, because she saw this thing walking around, make sure there isn't any misplaced parts?
I mean, go ahead and
Medicine?
I want to say medicine, yeah. It's pretty much humanoid in shape. Alright, 23. You're pretty sure you got all the bits out of the bag. Some of the bits might have come a little bit off. But Morticia seems to have this pretty well in hand, as she's aligning things more or less the way they used to be. She's not going for precision, she's not like rebuilding it on the table.
Right.
But she's kind of got the general, okay, there's the head, the arm is now over here, this leg is no longer up that way and bent the wrong way around.
Alsana will kind of like lean over and it's like, would you like to talk to it?
What an interesting question. I don't think it's capable of speech at the moment, and she
That's
kind
not
of
an issue.
kind of nudges the jaw back into place.
As long as the head is there.
Okay, just gonna look at Alaris. How is he doing?
Alaris, how are you doing?
He's just staring in awe at all everything that's happening right now. The fact that there's like he's looking at like
They're
Alsana Morticia's
multiplying.
like, good lord, there's two of them.
Although, to be fair, I can only do it at least once within the hour on this visit. So if you have any other interesting corpses that still haven't been intact, and you'd like to ask a few questions, I can do it for that. I just find this place terribly interesting, and, well, who knows what secrets those long dead bones could hold.
It's a bona fide shopping mall of intestines, pretty much.
My goodness.
I feel like shopping mall is a bit low class for a place like this.
I can't really... I can't really think of anything that would have interesting secrets that I'd want teased out, at least not verbally. I tend to do my work on a different level.
Just an offer.
It's a very kind one. That being said, if you'd like to, then by all means I won't stop you. In this instance, she gestures at the skulker.
They are known to be lost souls from the Shadowfell, so who knows what it has to say.
You're doing speech beyond the grave on the long dead corpse of the skulker. Let's do this. Alright. What questions are you asking? You've got 5.
I could have a terrible... Welcome to shit the GM did not have any reason to plan for.
Exactly. This was a randomized shop. And it just happened to be this.
How did you find yourself in the Shadowfell?
As the smoke enters its mouth, and with horrible slurping sounds, the jaw, the teeth, the tongue slightly rearrange, or at least what's left of them. And the voice that comes forth is almost wet and gurgling. Something I'm not going to try to emulate. But that is the general quality of this. How did you find yourself in the Shadowfell? I walked, and there was a hole. And I didn't realize until it was too late. The world was different, and the hole was gone behind me.
What year were you born?
Another deep breath. I was born. Third era. Ah. 800 and 36, 7. I don't remember.
It's okay, dear. Just gonna tap those over. I'm not gonna ask its name because I don't hate the GM that much. Any final requests? Anything you wanted to do in your home plane before you were lost?
I wanted to live. I wanted to go home. I wanted to see my sister's child born.
Third era.
Two more questions.
Was there any place while you were in the Shadowfell that held any sort of treasure or secrets or people, and not just monsters?
No. Gray mist, trees. Things ran and hid and ran again. There is no worth.
Kevin Allison looks around to the group. Anyone else have a question? One last one.
No, no question.
Elsa just shakes her head.
Watch as she leans forward. Can you ask what it's like to die?
I think I can.
You ask that question. You know your own spell, actually, before you ask, and you know that they can't answer anything from after death.
Alright, well, would you consider dying after death?
That is technically what it is?
I mean, it's the lead up to death, isn't it?
You are sparking such debate right now.
Yeah, She asked, "What is it like to die?" She does not
Okay.
ask, "What is it like to be dying?"
Okay, so more like what's it like to be dead?
Yeah.
I'm afraid he might not know that. It's the only things he knew in life.
She settles back a little. Shame. Regardless.
Could I offer an alternative?
Hmm?
What's it like to lose yourself and your sense of form and become something else against your will?
You ask this question, and for a while there's silence, and then just with an exhale of smoke, a nightmare. And the spell fades.
Well, that was interesting. Also, I'll lean over to what Morticia is. Also, like leans
Cool.
over to what Morticia is doing and find anything interesting during that. I'm assuming she was doing some work herself.
More, she paused to pay attention. And she just says, well, it was something certainly of interest. Could be a very useful skill to have with certain cases. I don't have any at the moment, but sometimes something terrible can happen. And perhaps the Watch needs me to investigate somebody's remains to see if perhaps it was an accident or if something else was likely. I cannot do something that direct. I tend to be more testing the blood for toxins and investigating the angle and force of trauma.
Check for. Do you often ever check for Duskbell?
On occasion.
Just curiosity.
Well, you always check for foreign objects in the mouth first.
How often do you find something like that?
Yes,
Duskbell specifically or foreign object?
Foreign objects in the mouth.
but also I'm interested if you've ever
Occasionally.
found a Duskbell.
I've never actually found a Duskbell, no. As for other things, once or twice there's been the question of whether it was an accident or not, and I've found something lodged in the airway, so... Not quite the mouth, but close. One interesting time, there was the remains of a poison capsule.
Self-ingested or?
Well, as it turned out, it was somebody trying to make it seem it was self-ingested, but that's a longer story. Yes, there were enough signs of other trauma to suggest that the jaw was forced around it, so it probably was not done intentionally by the individual.
Also kind of nods and like is watching like with very much interest.
Have you ever given thought to a career in this city, in this sort of profession?
Oh, it's crossed my mind, but I find myself occupied with other endeavors at the current time.
Terribly occupied or open to persuasion? Because I would be willing to negotiate a employment deal. Perhaps even a partnership.
Also, Cantil said, unfortunately, I could be convinced, but not within the year.
What a shame.
However, we are on a bit of a little journey, and have to. Well, we'll be here for potentially about a month. And should any particular cases come in for you that could make use of my abilities, I would be happy to stop by here again. Besides, who knows what fun things we can bring back.
I'm not really in the business of bringing them back.
Well, the
So
interesting.
much as
Who knows? Maybe we can find an actual dragon head this time.
well, if you do, you know where to find me. Now, as for myself finding you for those interesting cases within the next month, where would I inquire?
We're currently set to be spending taking up rest at the Torn Tome, if you're familiar.
Not familiar myself, but I'm sure I can get directions.
And furthermore, although I could not make it here in person, if there was ever a need to contact me later on within that year, who knows? And if we happen to be in the area, if you sent a letter to the Threshold and address it to me. Oh, I've realized I haven't even given a proper introduction. My name is Alsana.
Well, she takes off the glove and reaches out a hand to shake yours. Alsana, it is a pleasure.
And she returns it. And
Now,
she'll also just
As
oh, go ahead.
she'll also just go ahead.
Just for fun, she'll just cast a lesser restoration on the handshake.
Okay. And may I ask what that was?
Well, I'm sure you take proper precautions at all times, but in this field there could be a number of sicknesses to go about, yes?
By this time, I believe I've become immune to most.
Really?
You can build resistances.
You'll have to tell me more about that at some point. But
Trade secrets. We can discuss it if you'd like that offer of employment.
Odd bargain. But if there was any remains, or maybe just a bit of a stuffed nose, you should be good.
Well, it is appreciated for the thought. Now, as for this particular specimen here,
Oh, yes, of course.
you're right, the condition is very poor.
Yeah.
Well, given that
apologies.
it's tucked into a bag for a month, you can't really be blamed for that. Not too much can really be done with it, though I suppose that there's always potential in the firmer bits, the bones, for instance, if properly extracted, dried, and potentially ground into a powder, could have interesting properties. There seems to be a near invisibility about this. I'd have to do a little more research.
When it was alive and walking, it was effectively completely invisible.
Huh.
And if
That does hint at magic.
my mind correctly recalls, it could only be seen by it was magical light out of character.
Children.
Magical light, children under a certain age.
And a tallow candle of a human body.
Yep, of an unidentified corpse.
Oh, no, my corpse.
And a mirror.
And a mirror, yes. And she'll just recount those off. And just on the last one. And funnily enough, for who I'm talking to, a tallow candle made from an unidentified corpse.
Now, what happens if you take the tallow, make the candle, and then you identify the corpse? Does the candle cease to work in this capacity?
And she kind of taps her chin. That is Hmm.
That seems
Would you
like
know?
something that could require testing.
Would Elsana know?
It is a weird, esoteric, hypothetical question. It's probably not something that's ever actually been tested.
Could she have a running theory?
You can roll Arcana. And yes, you can add your guidance.
So for that 20 just to make you cry, but no.
21. I mean, yeah, it is a weird question. Like, what constitutes unidentified? Does it
Yes.
matter if, it cannot be identified? Does
We
it
just
matter if it's
insert
not
like a
identified yet?
3-minute conversation on this right here.
Basically, yes. As you guys,
I mean, Kane had a question too to follow up that. He's like, identified by what? If a dog recognizes its owner's body, does that count?
yes, precisely. It could just be that the right person hasn't come by to identify it yet.
What if the identifier lies to everyone else?
That as well. I would imagine that it would have to be a truthful identification, or at least a knowledge. But even then, what constitutes knowledge?
Does the identity need to be known just in general, or by the person making the count?
It doesn't need to be correctly identified.
Well, it doesn't
Can I-
say an incorrectly identified corpse, does it? At least not in the books.
Well, if it's not identified correctly, it's not identified. Or is it?
I think that's your field of expertise, is it not, Morticia?
Field of expertise to some extent, but this is getting into deeply theoretical magic. A
Well.
little bit less my field.
But a bit more of mine.
So you could be a great help around here.
I'll be on. Side question. What race is Morticia?
Human.
Human.
Yep.
Oh, Sonic kind of looks. Well, no offense, but I do outpace you in years. Years to come, that is. So should I find myself, done with my current assignment, certainly be, at any other time I would gladly jump at the opportunity. But unfortunately, priorities take priority.
Well, as long as you don't forget about this in your great many years.
My dear, I don't think I ever could.
Splendid. Now,
Goodness.
let's see. For the condition of this particular body, but also for the potential of the bones and the magic, would a price of about 12 gold additional be amenable to you?
I feel
That
like
gold would be, well, it'd be to me, not to you, Alsana, so I think I'll take that.
Alsana gives a glance. On what basis?
I put the corpse in the bag, I carried the corpse here, and I brought it out.
And I requested you put the corpse in the bag, and you wouldn't have if I had not directed you to do such.
Same could be said about the dragon head, and I'm not taking a cut of that, so I think I'll take mine of this.
You can take half of it.
If I get half of the dragon head too, sure.
You were not carrying the dragon head for an extended period of time. I had to convince you of that.
Sure.
We met
One
a
third then.
proper deal on the dragon head. The skulker was left ambiguous. As such, I feel like a half and half is fair.
Yeah, and a third for the dragon head sounds right to me.
No, it doesn't, because I specifically paid you for the transport of it. It's not my fault you took a smaller payment than you would have now that you know what the proper pricing is.
Although, if I choose not to give the corpse, in that case, what happens?
In that case, you're just being difficult as always.
Correct.
Son.
Look, I need to eat just as much as you do.
Yes, but you can fish. You've been
Not in this
doing it.
river.
Yes, and I need to eat just as much as you do, so half and half is fine.
Kane is not particularly pleased with this.
Morticia's standing there, and, well, I am putting the offer on the table in general. Any partitioning of gold would be up to you on your own time, I believe.
Yes, sorry about that. Well, here. Can we at least agree then, and she looked over, that it is to be sold, and that can be dealt with, and the division can be dealt with later.
I suppose. As long as Calder carries the coin in the meantime.
She looks over to Alaris, also in the room. And Calder, who is not.
Fine, Alaris counts.
And she'll just kind of take the gold off the table and throw it to Alaris.
Oh,
Is,
okay.
is all of the coin given to Alaris? Like all 12?
I assume she put it in like a small bag of some sort?
She stacked it on the table, and you can do your own bag.
Okay, yeah, then just like a small bag, drop it in, throw it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Once again, she snaps. The little cart
12.
trundles out and takes the slightly translucent remains of the skulker into the back room.
Is that an enchanted item or your own magic?
Enchanted item. It's a little something that comes with the shop.
Oh. Well, that leads me to my next. How did you find yourself in such a profession?
Well, I worked alongside the last person to own the shop, and when he finally grew old and retired, I took over.
Has he, stayed retired or returned?
As far as I know, I believe that he went out to... Oh, he had some daughter and son-in-law in Killidan, I believe, and went out there to live his retirement in the relative peace of a town compared to the bustle of a city.
I don't blame him. This place and this town is rather exuberant and full of many great arts and trades, you included. But the noise can be a bit draining, perhaps. Is it relatively
best-
quiet in this room?
It is relatively quiet in this room. She smiles slightly. Benefits of being down a bit of a side street. Things are a little more muffled. And of good thick walls. So, is there anything else of interest in that bag of yours?
I could show one off, but I'm not in the market to sell. Although it
Well-
is an interesting bit of remains, let's say.
Well, then, I'm interested. Let's see it.
Well, the unicorn horn wand.
Oh, God.
And before you say anything,
It's beautifully carved. You said remains. Is this a bone of some sort? She's flicking things on her goggles. Very magical, actually. I see a faint... something of an aura. Is that... healing aligned?
indeed it is. I'll give you some context first, because it can be, people can make assumptions on what it is, and the means to acquire it. We had a recent, run-in, back in the Soren Woods, with a corrupted beast, a corrupted celestial beast. And upon dispatching it and its influence, I'm sure... Have you heard of the bit of the blight issue taking up the area around Soren?
I can't say I really have. Well, there was something about monsters in Soren Wood, and a few questions here and there, but no details.
It's also where we happened to come across that skulker.
Oh, how interesting. Is that the source of them?
There was a
Oh, what?
small portal to the Shadowfell
That would do it.
in the middle of I believe, a vampiric tree of sorts.
Now that is extremely interesting. I can't say I really work with plants, but vampiric. I'd almost like to take that apart to see how it works.
Alsana reaches into her bag and produces one of the pieces of bark. Is that so? But I'm getting ahead
She,
of myself.
Looks at it with the goggles. There is something about that.
I'm getting ahead of myself. The creature that was corrupted by this influence was a unicorn.
Oh.
Angry and
That's not-
violent, attacking all who approach. Once the Guardian, now a harbinger of light and death. As such, it was dispatched, although given the normal sanctity of it, we didn't exactly scavenge it or anything. But the horn was gifted after I had a conversation with it afterwards, in the same manner you saw.
Oh, you just have walked straight out of a bard's tale, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. And it's things like this that make my current priorities. Terribly interesting
Well.
things like these don't come around any day, and we're lined up to find many more.
Far be it from me to get in the way of Slayer of Chimeras and corrupted Celestials. All the same, I would keep the offer on the table for the future. Assuming that it wouldn't be beneath you.
No, I am more of the nature and magic inclined, but I do have the streak of the dead in me. And it's not something I'm by any ways ashamed of, and I would love to explore a bit more.
Consider yourself very welcome. And if you wish to come across any more interesting bits and pieces to bring back whenever you might be in the area or whenever you're finished with your priorities, consider me interested.
I will keep it in mind. But, I'm sure you have other things to get to today as well.
The day is nearly done. I should probably process what you have delivered and get it stored away for further perusal tomorrow.
But this meeting was terribly interesting. I have to thank you.
I feel I should be thanking you. Until next time,
And like
we
I
have
said,
a wonderful stay in the city. Noise and all.
well, the same for you. And like I said, we will be in the area for at least a little bit. So,
Then-
if you need a dead body talk to, you know which inn I'm in.
I most certainly do.
Alaris, thank you so much for stumbling across this place.
No problem.
Any of you have anything else?
No, I don't.
Nothing in here, no.
Alaris, you're not hiding a beholder corpse in your back pocket?
No, don't keep those things on my person.
Alright, then we'll be off.
Right. Head outside into what has become deepening night. You see Calda sitting kind of shivering a little on the front step as it is getting colder and colder.
Oh dear, you were out here waiting for us.
No dead bodies. No dead bodies. That thing was alive that we killed? That thing was a person?
No, it wasn't. Not anymore.
It was! It lived!
Well, it animated. Same did the skeletons. And we put it to rest.
To rest. Alright, we put it to rest. Just closes her eyes. Deep breath. Straightens up. Okay. Okay.
Death is consistent, my dear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Self-defense is self-defense.
The Chimera was
That's-
alive as well.
Chimera wasn't human once. The Chimera wasn't humanoid once.
Alzana turns her head. Do you qualify and worthy of your restraint with just 2 arms and 2 legs?
I don't know, but I've seen some dead humanoids. I've seen some dead halflings.
As have I. I'm just saying. Well, you remember our friend from Threshold, Silverhair? She's not exactly human. Doesn't mean she's not as intelligent, if not more.
Well, it had sentience at one point. It had the.
Then what
It
would you
was
call me
bipedal and
asking-
it spoke.
you'll find that's a bit of a close-minded sentiment.
I'm gonna keep it for a little bit just until I calm down. How about that?
No problem. Everyone takes this at their own pace, but
It's a worthy sentiment to keep, Alsana. It's best not to lose your sensitivity to that.
to a fact of life.
No, a fact of morals.
A fact of us ending a life, maybe, when it didn't intend to be ended yet.
Or more importantly, is never do it lightly. Sometimes it needed to be ended.
I see no gray area. It attacked us. Had we not, we would have been the ones in the ground.
Oh, I don't doubt this one. It's just good not to lose sensitivity to it. You should never be able to do it without questioning.
People kill for no reason.
You have personal history with that.
Nothing that I want to talk about now. Maybe more in private. Not now.
Was it before or after the family?
Not now.
Alright. At your leisure
Also, I find it interesting you pry quicker on Calda than you did for that Morticia. Or what was it? Morticia?
then. The sign's right above our heads. But,
No, that's Conrad asking.
yes,
Yes,
Morticia.
it was.
Morticia? Okay. You weren't weird with her. Why?
Because the interesting bits were at the forefront.
What, that's all?
Because we could have a conversation about things I like and enjoy. Meanwhile, if you talk to your standard guard at the front of town, well, he's gonna talk about what bread he had for the morning and the patrols he goes on, and forgive me for thinking that's terribly boring. So
Well,
I go for the fun stuff.
Well, all guards, standard or high ever. Bastards.
Sorry, say that again.
All guards, standard or high up, they're all bastards. They don't know what they talk about.
Also pauses and goes, "What happened to not wanting to talk about it?"
I'm just letting off the steam.
And you're betraying your secrecy. Just thought I'd let you know.
I know. You're getting to me.
Oh, have I not yet? Up until this
It's a tipping point, Alsana, and you've hit it.
I'll keep that in mind. Alaris, how are you feeling about dead bodies?
Well, kind of pretty neutral.
Yeah.
Not much
I
to
see
say.
a green circle, but hear no sound, John. I assume at this point you guys are moving out back
Yes,
out
we
into
are
the street.
walking. We're
You're
making our way to
Yep.
Tornto.
I am torn between. I know, torn. Between having somebody do one more D100 before you guys find the inn and turn in for the night and we end the session, or just letting you guys do character conversation until then.
Alsana's
I
just
do
got
not know how long anything is going to take.
Alsana's just got like for like right now, just one question for Lars, and that'll be it for her.
Mhm.
If John's there, when he's there. But also, Kane and Calder haven't rolled anything yet, I don't think, for D100.
I
Nope.
have it.
They
I have
have
it
not.
typed up and waiting. I don't think right now is the time.
John's headset just died. Give me a sec to charge it for a bit. He's seen dead bodies, but a public morgue is kind of creepy.
All right.
Which I feel like is an appropriate response to public morgues.
Yeah.
And then Alsano asks, and do you have an opinion on the whole, 2 arms, 2 legs thing and putting them back in the ground? I mean, you have personal history with that and all. My example was those skeletons.
Repeat that.
And she goes, and where do you stand on the whole, hesitance on things that were once people? I mean, you didn't show much with the skeletons I talked about before, and you have a personal history with.
Well,
I'd just like to know where we all stand.
on things that look human, we have to
On things
stare
that
in the
were
face
once
and have
human.
to.
I'll call them maybe plug your ears for a second.
Calder
Something
doesn't.
happened.
Things that once had hopes and dreams, families and the like, and have been corrupted into terrible, terrible forms that attack all and only bring death and destruction. You know, like the group you went out into the woods with.
Here's the thing. Corruption is definitely an issue, and it's not like I take offense to killing things that were once human, but yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, if it comes to like undead, once had hopes. An undead, a zombie, once had hopes, dreams, a family, but that's past. So you put it back where it belongs. But as for monstrosities that have by choice corrupted themselves, I'm not quite sure.
Interesting distinction. I'll keep that in mind. Oh, look, we're at the inn.
As you're
Kane
walking,
had
let's
one more.
have Kane do 1d100
Oh,
roll.
okay, we are doing one.
Conrad was waiting.
All right.
Yeah. Well, no, I had one more comment.
Could we
from Kane.
have like
Okay.
sorry, just real quick. Could we also have Calder roll one and basically just
Yes.
see what it is and if we can get to it now or later?
Kane
I
and
think
Calder.
I think no matter what, they should be left for next session. Honestly.
I do want to see what they are. If they're short enough, we can just do it.
Fuck.
Okay.
Yeah,
And-
Kane's comment was basically it's again hesitant isn't the act of killing. It's I feel that we shouldn't ever take the fact that we are once was a life for granted. It's a slippery slope once you desensitize to that.
Slippery slopes, huh?
You can justify with no remorse killing one thing. What's stop you feeling another when you're in a bad state?
Reasonability. Having differences in the situations.
So what most people call morals. Again, it's not that you shouldn't act. It's that you should always be conscious of what you're doing.
I'm conscious, but you'll excuse me if I don't emote about it, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I understand not emoting, don't worry.
Then understand that I'm aware of things vividly. It's part of what I was experiencing during those years.
Then don't
Just-
torment Calda about it.
Just because I'm used to it doesn't mean I'm not aware of it.
I'm not saying you aren't. I'm saying stop tormenting Calda about it. She has her beliefs. I don't think you have the right to question them.
We're on this journey together.
Because you don't have the right to try to change them with her.
Kane, it's fine.
to you.
Oh, so you're just feeling like protecting things then?
Because I know what you can do to people when they feel vulnerable.
Really?
Yes.
Well, it's a two-way street, but I think I get what you mean.
Glad
Oh,
we
hey,
understand
look,
each other
Roger.
for once.
Oh, hey, look, D100 roll.
Actually, you reach the inn.
Oh, alright.
You go inside. This one has a cheerful little bell at the entrance. Yep. The interior is decently warm, well lit. Quite a few people actually are inside enjoying an evening drink. It is the middle of the week. It's not as busy as it might be otherwise.
Any bards? As the drums kick in.
Yep. There's not so much a single bard as there's a small trio of musicians in the corner next to the hearth. They're not so much putting on this great performance as providing music overall for enjoyment. Probably hired by the inn for that purpose for the night. Or the evening, rather.
Faces recognized.
I mean, anybody who wants to can do, let's say, a perception check for the room.
You bet your ass Kane is. I can't roll. I literally haven't rolled above a 10 today, including a D100.
20 total
So,
for Alsana.
10 and a 20. Alright. Look around. Nobody you recognize as somebody you've met before, no. Alsana, you do notice, kind of behind the bar, moving around with a noticeable limp,
Mhm.
a very tall dragonborn with kind of the rusty reddish scales and the markings around her forehead and eyes are done in geometric patterns and this bright yellow and green paint. She seems cheerful and friendly enough. She's laughing with some patrons as she puts down a plate of food in front of them, looks over at you as you come in the door, gives a nod, and raises a finger in a brief just one moment gesture. Collects a few plates on the way back up the bar. Kane, you see a lot of people talking, laughing, eating, enjoying the music. There's a small group, maybe 3 or 4 elderly, middle-aged or so. At least the one human in the group that you can actually gauge the age of more accurately. Human, a couple of dragonborn, and let's say a gnome in one corner, and they are playing a game of cards with a small pile of small coins and trinkets and stuff in the center of the table.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. As
Yes.
soon as you said gnome, I went, oh, that one's the villain.
This is the legacy of Sonder.
And other gnomes we've had.
All right, fair enough.
I'm just surprised I did it to myself.
When the innkeeper gets a moment,
Yep, she
Alsana.
does in a moment.
Alsana will just kind of wave and walk over. It's like, I'm guessing you must be Duxora.
Well, yeah. Who sent you?
Certain sparkly innkeep, from over in Lyrie. I believe you know Jeffrey.
Oh, Jeffy, how's he doing?
Oh, seemingly good.
Haven't seen him in an age. So he sent you my way, did he?
And I've heard tales of your, adventuring days with him.
Well, I'm not really the storyteller he is, so, if you want further tales, I'm probably not going to be able to make them as bright and shiny.
Oh, no,
But-
no worries. Just, I guess a bit of respect for the path.
Well, appreciated. So, respect aside, are you wanting rooms? Are you wanting a meal? What can I get you?
Let's start with rooms. Well, I suppose both for others. We'll start with rooms, though. We have 4 of us looking to spend the night. Probably 2 rooms, if that's okay.
2 rooms, 1 bed or 2?
Preferably 2.
2 rooms, 2 beds each, 4 beds. Hey, you never know, you always ask. And that's gonna be, let's see, give you a little discount for the referral. It's been a while since I've seen Jeff. He sends people my way sometimes, though. Let's call it a gold for the 2 rooms. No, make it 8 silver.
Also, kind of looks over at the rest of the room. Like, anyone have change?
I've got 2 silver.
Calda has 6 silver.
Perfect.
All right, Kane and Calda provide the silver for the rooms. She provides, Dexora provides 2 keys. It says, right, if you want drink, there it is extra, it's not included. Meal, I provide breakfast. If you want a hot dinner, it's just a half silver per plate. 5 copper each.
That is unbelievably tempting. I think I'll save that for breakfast.
Alright then. Enjoy the day, enjoy the commons area as long as you like. Turn in and your rooms are down the hallway. Kind of at the end, I've got them across from each other.
Real quick, would Alsana know if her lesser restoration could fix a limb?
I could not. This is an old injury, it's deep set.
Okay. Perhaps greater, but she's not there yet.
Perhaps greater.
Alright. But, yeah, Alsana will give a nod and pass the key to Calda. If you'd like to turn in early, I wouldn't blame you.
If you want to talk, I wouldn't blame you either.
What about?
I'm willing to tell.
Alsana raises her eyebrows. Very well. Starts heading towards the room.
You head towards the room. In the meantime, the group of the older folk at the table playing cards, there's a little bit of a ruckus, and one starts shouting about, "No, look, your eyes are just all wrong. Look, the suit is very clear, and that's a blob. That's a mistake on the printer's part. It's a club, obviously." And after a moment, one of them looks over, spots, probably just in a wild glance around the room, Kane, maybe Alaris as well. You're young. You've got good eyes. Get over here. Give us a say on this.
Kane is immediately over there. He's here for this.
Puff of smoke beside Alaris.
Right. This one thinks he's trumped my hand, but that looks like a spade that's been drawn over to look like a club. Very badly, by the way, and I would never. You are accusing me. This was a printer's error. It is a
Real quick.
club.
How many people are at the table with hands?
4 people.
Okay. I don't know if this is true at all, but I just find this funny anyways. He's gonna point to the guy between the 2 of them and go, "Doesn't he have a better hand than both of you anyways?"
Roll a d20 for how true that is.
Okay. Fucking, I can't roll shit tonight.
He gives you a weird look, kind of tilts the hand, and it's one of the Dragonborns that you pointed out. Puts it down on the table very clearly and says, "No, look, that one's got maybe 3 of a kind. That one's got 3 in a row, maybe."
Or I'll have to ask you a question first. Have you played poker before?
I have not, but I've seen sets of things, and this is adapted for dice.
Okay, I was gonna say, 3 of a kind definitely beats 3 in a row.
But I assume the higher one is the one with the issue. But out of character.
Yeah.
Would a standard deck in this setting have one of each card?
It would.
All right.
Yeah, that's Kane's next question. He goes, well, easy way to tell, and grabs the deck and starts sorting through it.
All right. You sort through the deck, and you find the, let's say that it was a 6. You find a 6 of spades in the deck.
And it was a club that was looking like a spade. Was the issue?
It was a spade. It was a club looking. It was a club looking blotchy.
Okay.
The one who's saying it's not
Yeah.
winning says it's a spade.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So
he goes-
it seems that it's a club.
he puts it down and goes, "That's your answer."
One of them, the one with the club in his hand, points at the other and goes, "Ha!" Let's say that this is like poker, but a little different in that the 1, 2, 3 beats the 3, 3, 3 sort of thing. And with a fair amount of grumbling, the one calling it into contest sits back and lets the winner scoop the pot from the center of the table. Yep.
Can I go? May I get 1 chip for my contribution?
He fishes through, pulls out a silver piece, starts to hand it up to you, and then says, "Actually,
I'll play for it.
yeah, call this your starting bet. Draw up a chair."
Sure, let's see how far I can go with just 1.
Well, you gotta match the bets and all that, but we'll see what we can do. Let's start one basic. And if you'd
Let's see if
like,
Kane's
we
rolls
can
get
go
better.
ahead and roll the dice. The way this is structured for dice. Yes.
I'll go request in advance. We just make it 1 roll and be done with it. I don't want to go too far with this.
It is a set of rolls, so we can
Okay.
end it here and start with this next session if you'd like.
Sure.
All right, Kane pulls up a chair and settles down to join in a little game of cards. Elaris, you are in the main pub area. You can watch if you'd like, or you can join if you'd like to draw up as well.
I'll
Um,
grab a drink and watch.
Aw.
and Calda and Alsana are going back to have a chat in the back room. And as it's getting late, let's go ahead and call it there for today.
All right.
Alrighty.
Anything else just before I end it off?
Nah.
I think we're good.
Then just side thing. Holy shit, I fucking love Morticia.
I cannot believe that happened. All right.
All right.
Good night. Until next time.
Telling you, man,
Yep.
D100s are always like this.
Oh yeah. Mine
Oh, God.
are nice. I like mine.